For the past decade, no building has captivated me quite like Habitat 67. Ascending over the St. Lawrence River opposite Montreal Harbor, this is an apartment complex like no other. An experimental project intended to usher the world into a livable, egalitarian, and urbanist future at a time when global society seemed to be rethinking everything. Views, light, and nature for the masses, and a bold and daring form of stacked prefab concrete boxes, a concept that ultimately backfired as it has become one of Montreal's most expensive and desired buildings. Let's explore the vision, implementation, and the triumphs and failures of a truly one-of-a-kind building. I'll be honest, for me, Habitat 67 was love at first sight. It was unlike anything I'd ever seen, more resembling a South American favela than a Canadian apartment building. I first remember seeing it as the exterior hotel shot in Blades of Glory, a mediocre 2007 Will Ferrell movie. Habitat was the thesis project of Moshe Safdie, an Israeli-Canadian architecture student at McGill University, and it likely would have stayed a studio project if not for the 1967 World Expo looming on Montreal's horizon. Expo 67 was an international exhibition with representation from 62 nations while simultaneously celebrating Canada's centennial anniversary. Expo 67 was primarily held on St. Helens and Notre Dame Islands in the St. Lawrence River, accessed via the boulevard fronting Habitat. Both islands were significantly enlarged for the expo with over 25 million tons of fill, a move intended to both avoid displacing residents and to discourage land speculation. Today, other remnants of the fair can be found on both islands, although the vast majority of the structures were temporary and did not endure past the fair. The peninsula Habitat 67 is on was also man-made, built to protect the harbor of Montreal. Habitat 67 was chosen as a winning design for a pavilion design contest. It was intended to revolutionize urban living in an egalitarian method that would allow every city resident views, light, and outdoor space, incorporating all the benefits of the wildly popular single-family home into a dense, mass-producible form. And the building is massive. It stretches 900 feet from one end to the other, about as long as 4 city blocks in Old Montreal. This was a major deviation from the typical Canadian housing blocks going up at the time. The building is composed of 354 identical prefab concrete boxes stacked to create unique units stepping up from the waterfront. A continuous driveway and open walking plaza define the first 2 floors, meandering under the massive units above. Straight stair and elevator towers connect up from here to mid-level open walkways leading to higher floor units. And the Lego resemblance is not lost. Safdie allegedly used Legos to build his initial design models. Each prefab form is 38.5 feet long, 17.5 feet wide, and 10 feet high. 15 different unit layouts ranging from 600 to 1,800 square feet were made using the identical prefab forms, post-tensioned together with the stairs, elevators, and walkways to create a monolithic form. The interiors were also built around mass production. Concrete boxes arrived from the on-site production facility already equipped with kitchens prefabricated by Frigidaire and single-unit fiberglass bathrooms, ready to be lifted and post-tensioned into place. Habitat 67 as we know it was only a piece of what was to be a 1,200-unit complex spanning the peninsula that would have included a commercial center and school, plans that were scrapped as the project immediately overran its budget. During the Expo years, Habitat was open to fair visitors and also a residence for dignitaries. Despite the concrete's usually cold feeling, the complex as a whole feels intimate, more like cabins on a mountain than a soulless high-rise. It is simultaneously human-scaled and cavernous. Each unit has an outdoor space atop a neighboring apartment, and residents have added awnings, sunrooms, and plantings, creating variation and individuality among the spaces. The form arrangement means that units can have windows on nearly every side, and accessing your apartment is done not in a soulless corridor but in an open walkway exposed to the elements. Now, let's have some fair if unoriginal criticism. The building is impractical in so many ways. With nearly every wall, floor, and roof exposed, the typical efficiencies of an apartment building are lost. The numerous rooftop decks provide a constant threat of leaking, and the concrete shows signs of damage and repair across the complex. The building also didn't quite suit rough Quebecois winters. The open breezeways became nearly impassable as the wind funneled through the building. Additional awnings were later added to help solve the problem. And despite its urbanist intent, it lacks the density of nearly any comparable building. Habitat originally had just 146 units. This shorter complex across the river has 325, on only a third the site. Today, Habitat 67's stated egalitarian purpose is a bit ironic. The cheapest apartments here regularly command over $1 million, with larger and higher units pushing closer to 2. It has in itself become an unusual status symbol for the wealthy and eccentric. The location doesn't hurt either. The relatively junior Moshi Softy was propelled to immediate stardom, and pieces of Habitat can be seen in much of Softy's later work. Habitat 67 didn't quite hit its original target, but nonetheless created an architectural icon the world had never seen. There will likely never be another building like this built, and for that reason, Habitat is a cherished relic of a time society took an abrupt left turn, then immediately turned around and went back. Thanks for coming with me to Habitat 67. Subscribe to the channel and join me on the next adventure.